Okay, everyone, this is the third video on how to solve various types of stoichiometry problems. This is going to be an example of when they give you mass and they want mass at the end. So this is going to be one of the three-step type stoichiometry problems. And this is going to be found problem number 174 on page 890 of your textbook. And in this problem they ask, what mass of acetylene, C2H2, will be produced from the reaction of 90 grams of calcium carbide. And then they give us a balanced equation here. Now, they give us a starting amount, but they gave us grams of that starting amount. So just like before, I'm going to write out my given, 90 grams CaC2. Whenever they give us grams, grams is pretty much useless as far as stoichiometry problems go. I have to convert that into moles before I can do anything. Remember, I have to have moles to go from one chemical to another in my balanced equation. So I'm going to write grams CaC2 on bottom, because whatever my unit is in my given, that's what I have to cancel out. And I have to turn that into moles before I can do anything else. Now, where do I go to find a conversion factor for this step? That's my periodic table. Whenever I go from grams to moles, I want to look in the periodic table for that. So I've looked up calcium's mass, and it turns out calcium's mass is 40.078. And I've looked up carbon's mass. Turns out that's 12.01. And there's two carbons in that, so I got to multiply that by 2. So that's 24.02 plus 40.078. Let's round that to 40.08 just to make the math a little easier. And it turns out that's going to be 64.10 grams per mole. Okay, so my mass always goes with grams, 64.10 grams in 1 mole, and that'll give me moles of CaC2. Now I can actually do the stoichiometry step. I can go from an amount of my starting material to an amount of another chemical in my reaction. So I'm going to set up my next conversion. Now, as far as this step goes, grams of CaC2 divided by grams of CaC2, those canceled each other. I'm left with moles of CaC2. So that's going to go in my denominator next, moles CaC2. And I need to turn that into the chemical that I'm looking for, acetylene, C2H2. Since my chemicals are different, though, I have to have moles of each. Remember, I can only go from moles of one chemical to moles of a different chemical. And where do I look for this? I look in my balanced equation. I'll just write that out. Balanced equation is where I go for that. And my balanced equation tells me there's 1 mole of CaC2 for every 1 mole of C2H2. Okay, so now the moles CaC2, those cancel each other. I'm left with moles of C2H2. I'm almost done. The only problem is they don't want moles, they want mass. So I need to do one more conversion at the end of this. Okay, I'm going to set up another conversion factor. Moles of C2H2 is what I have, so that has to go in my denominator. So that way those two will cancel. And we're looking for mass of C2H2. So grams C2H2. Where do I go to go from moles to grams of the same chemical? Again, that's my periodic table. All right, I'm going to look up the mass of both carbon and hydrogen. Carbon I already looked up. It turns out it is 12.01. And again, I got to multiply that by 2. And hydrogen, it turns out, is I can round it to 1.01. And same deal, I have to multiply that by 2 as well. So 2.02, I add those together. 0.6, so 26.04. So I have 26.04 grams in 1 mole of C2H2. Moles of C2H2 divided by moles of C2H2, those cancel each other. I'm left with grams of C2H2, which is what they asked for in the problem. And so now I just need to calculate. I need to go through and do 90 times 26.04 divided by 64.10. So give me a second. Just got to do that on my calculator here. And then divided by 64.1. And that comes out to 36.56. And my unit for that is grams C2H2, because it's the only one that I haven't canceled out here. C2H2. All right, so that is how to go from grams to grams in a stoichiometry problem. And these are the most common ones that you're probably going to find throughout the year. So just remember that you have to, if you're given grams at the beginning, your first step has to be to convert to moles. Then you can go from moles of one chemical to moles of another. And then finally, you can convert back to grams at the end if you have to. But you have to do this in 3 different steps.